I'd like to start the meeting. So welcome to our Public Works meeting on Tuesday, April the 14th. So I'd like to start by reading the land acknowledgement. The Niagara region is, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'd like to ask the clerk to conduct a roll call first.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Badaway.
Present.
Councillor Bateman. Councillor Kyokyo.
Present.
Councillor Diodati. Councillor Easton.
Here.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Easton.
Present.
Councillor Foster.
Present.
Acting Regional Chair Ganan.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
Councillor Height. Present. Councillor Encina.
Present.
Councillor Morocco.
Present.
Councillor Olson.
Present.
Councillor Rigby.
Present.
Councillor Seaborn.
Present.
Councillor Cisco.
In attendance.
Councillor Sorrento.
Present.
Councillor Steele.
I'm here.
Councillor Ugolini.
Present.
Councillor Villela. Councillor Zalepa. I see you online. And we have regrets today from Councillor Junkenshire.
Well, thank you, Madam Clerk. So then we'll move on to reading the land acknowledgement statement this morning. So Niagara region is situated on treaty land. And this land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the credit of the First Nation. There are many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. So I'm going to request, are there any disclosure of or pecuniary interest on any items this morning from committee members? See none, Madam Clerk. So we'll move on to item 4 here, which is PW 13 2026 Westchester Avenue Culvert replacement. So is there a mover and a seconder for this item? Moved by Councillor Height, second by Mayor Cisco. So I will. Are there any questions to this item? It's in front of you. Doesn't appear to be. Okay. Oh, Councillor Easton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm interested to know whether or not the complexities which have been described, I think, quite thoroughly in the report, could present us with additional problems before this work is even completed. Could we just have an opinion about that, or a technical opinion on that?
Okay, Director Tassoni.
Through the chair, we don't anticipate that it will. However, there is that possibility. Staff are undertaking a rigorous investigation program on this, so we're monitoring it very closely on a monthly basis to ensure that we stay ahead of anything that may happen between now and the time when the design is complete. This council will see a 2027 budget request for the construction funds, and we plan to move on this very quickly. However, we can't say for sure what will happen between now and then, but we are keeping a very close eye on it.
Okay, and so that, of course, is very helpful. What would we expect then, that it would be budget time before we would hear anything further, or would there be the monitoring updates? Would they be brought to us on a quarterly basis? How would that be handled?
Through the chair, I wouldn't expect that we would bring anything forward to council unless there was any major changes. We don't expect that there will be. Yeah, so unless there's any major change with respect to the condition of the road surface above the culvert, council shouldn't expect to see anything further on this until it comes forward in the budget.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fear that we may see more of this. We've reached that critical tipping point. So thank you, and thank you very much, Mr. Chisoni.
Okay. Noting no other speakers, please, I'll call the question. Please vote electronically. Motion is carried. Thank you. So we're going to move on to consent items for information. This morning, we're going to call on Lisa DeAngelis, Commissioner of Public Works, for the presentation respecting the South Niagara Wastewater Treatment Solution Progress Update. So welcome, Commissioner, and we look forward to the update this morning.
Thank you, Committee Chair. Good morning, members of committee. I'm here this morning, as the Chair mentioned, for an update on the South Niagara Wastewater Treatment Solution. I understand it's been a bit of time since the last update came to committee, so I'm happy on behalf of the project team to be delivering this presentation this morning. Wanted to introduce part of the team this morning, which is our Director of Water Wastewater Services, Philip Lambert. As well, we have Lisa Vespi here from the consulting team. And they have really been spearheading this and navigating it through, and I'm happy to report on the progress to date. I can't find the, oh, here it is. Sorry. There it is. Okay. The purpose of this morning's presentation is to provide you with an overview and address a few strategic questions that you may have around, why is this a priority project for Niagara Region? What is our current best estimate and financing requirements to move this project into implementation? What are our anticipated milestones, or sort of our key milestones as we move forward? What progress has the team made to date? And what do we anticipate our path forward to look like? And how can you assist us as we move forward? So why this investment, and what are the benefits to our community? This map really helps to lay out the benefits that this facility will provide. It will support unlocking over 19,000 new units shown here in the orange area. This is new greenfield development in Thorold and Niagara Falls. In addition, because we will be diverting approximately 17,000 units of capacity away from the existing Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant, it unlocks 21,000 additional infill and redevelopment units. And we've also identified in green here catchment areas that are unlocked because of the diversion, and a number of these units are in Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and Niagara-on-the-Lake. In addition, there are benefits to our employment. In terms of our employment growth, we anticipate there'll be about 2,000 new jobs forecasted in the servicing areas that are outlined here in the dotted area, as well as over 900 existing businesses will be in a position to be able to expand in the future. As well, there's some planning work that's still underway in the QEW employment corridor south of Niagara Falls along the QEW. There's approximately 750 hectares of potential employment lands that are these large lot employment lands that are very advantageous for employment growth. And we also estimate that that land could potentially create between 11,000 to 18,500 jobs in the Niagara region. And again, those employment lands along the QEW have some planning work that is still required, but we anticipate that if those lands were brought on, that would be unlocking significant jobs and employment growth in the area. Additional benefits to the construction of the South Niagara wastewater treatment solution is the reduction of the number of pumping stations that we operate. We anticipate that we would be decommissioning at least two pumping stations. The benefit of this is that we are eliminating risk in our system of things like sanitary sewer overflows during wet weather when we remove pumping stations and replace them with a deep gravity sewer. As well, this scheme also allows us to optimize the capacity in our existing Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant, as well as the new facility in South Niagara. And it provides us with some redundancy and resiliency in our system. So what does the solution look like? The solution is actually made up of 10 what we call projects or components. We have the first 3 components that are currently in design. That is the deep tunnel sewer from the Southside wastewater pumping station in Niagara Falls, which allows us to divert some of the flow that is currently going to Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant, and it brings it southward along Montrose Road and then eastward to the location of the new wastewater treatment plant itself, as well as the outfall. We're calling that our phase 1. So that's the first 3 projects, and those are currently in design. Then there are follow-on 7 projects, which bring a new deep tunnel sewer to the west over to Thorold and picks up part of the Thorold catchment, as well as some greenfield lands in Thorold. And altogether, these 10 projects or components are the solution. So showing those components in table format, you can see at the top, the purple, these are the works that are currently in design. So again, it's the southwest tunnel sewer and the treatment plant, as well as the outfall. And we have currently updated the estimates for the construction of those facilities based on our 30% design that we currently have completed. So as you can see, the first 2 projects in purple, which we're calling phase 1, the total estimated cost of those in 2026 dollars is around $250 million. And then the projects that are shown in green, which we are calling our phase 2 or our later phases of this solution, they total approximately $100 million for a total cost of $550 million based on 2026 dollars and the best available information we have today. And as you can see in the column on the right, we have expended funds to date. This has been for the design work that we have retained Stantec as our consulting engineers. We have Gemma on site as well as our advisors on this project. We've gone through, we've purchased some property and so on. So those are the expenditures that are showing in the right-hand column. With respect to our funding scheme, we are still anticipating or hoping to get a third funding for phase 1 of this project. So again, phase 1 is worth $450 million. We are hoping to have matching funding from both the province and the federal government to support us in phase 1 of this scheme. With respect to phase 2, our current estimate is $100 million. At this time, we're not seeking necessarily the funding for phase 2, but we are socializing the fact that we will require funding in the future, and we will be seeking that and starting that work once we have phase 1 secured. So our funding advocacy to date. There has been considerable advocacy that's happened to date. There's been about 18 meetings with the province and federal ministries. We've had meetings with both provincial and federal associate deputy ministers. This was showcased at FCM. We have ongoing meetings with Infrastructure Ontario and the federal Canadian Infrastructure Bank, and that advocacy is ongoing. So where are we going? We have been actively working with Strategy Corp in partnership with the City of Niagara Falls on some targeted advocacy at the federal level. We are exploring funding opportunities in the forthcoming Building Community Strong Fund. On the provincial side, we built on the outcomes from the last year's Niagara Week. We're doing interministerial working groups that are helping us develop some funding recommendations. We continue to have senior staff conversations. And we are exploring as well, not just hanging our hat on getting a third funding. We are also looking at, are there other funding models that we could potentially leverage for this phase one of this project? So the proposed schedule. We anticipate that we will require confirmation of funding by the end of this year. And why is that? That's because by the end of this year, we anticipate our design work will be at 90% complete, and that we will be in a position to tender first the tunnel in Q2 of 2027, and that we will be in a position to tender in Q3 of 2027 the plant and the outfall. These will be two separate contracts, two different contractors, and so the tunnel will proceed first and then the plant. And we anticipate commencement of construction of the tunnel in Q3 of 2027 and the plant by the end of 2027, with both being in service by the end of 2030. That is our currently anticipated timeline and key milestones. With respect to the phase two works, again, right now our focus is on getting phase one out the door, getting it into construction and being shovel ready for next year. So we will be looking at what that looks like, our timeline for phase two. Our attention will turn to that after we get phase one buttoned up. So our design progress to date, and it has been significant. We have completed our data collection. We have started our archaeological work. We have completed stage 2 archaeological. We are currently working towards stage 3. We've done all of our geotechnical investigations, our well monitoring. We've got our baselines, and we're continuing to monitor wells as the work proceeds. And we have our subsurface utility engineering works underway. One of the big bodies of work in the preliminary planning of one of these facilities is ensuring that we have our population flow and loading projections really solidly buttoned up before we start looking at our process selection. So that's a large body of work that was completed early on in the design phase. And then we went through a very comprehensive process review, sizing each one of the unit processes within the treatment plant, and carefully selecting our equipment, looking at life cycle costing. So currently, as I mentioned before, our detailed design is at 30%. It is ongoing, and we anticipate being at 90% by the end of 2026. In terms of our risks, one of our major risks to meeting the timelines that I've laid out is being able to secure our permits and approvals. We have a requirement for approvals from the Ministry of Transportation as a deep tunnel sewer will cross the QEW twice in Niagara Falls. So one of the things that we have on our critical path is securing the permits from MTO to do those crossings. There's a lot of work, a lot of discussion that goes on to secure those permits. And we're looking for support from members of council to help us on our advocacy to get our permits as quickly as we possibly can. With respect to our archaeological assessments, again, we are in stage 3. We require our clearances in advance of tendering this project. And again, we require certain sign-offs from the province in order to proceed and get that clearance. In terms of species at risk, we feel we've got a plan forward to mitigate this risk and making a contribution to the Habitat Conservation Fund to get that clearance. So as we move forward, we anticipate going to tender early in 2027, Q2 of 2027 for the tunnel, Q3 for the plant, but we need to ensure that we have everything in place in terms of our permitting and our clearances before that can happen. And that's what we're tracking right now. Our anticipated path forward, as I said, the tunnel will proceed in advance of the plant. Again, design completed at the end of this year. We will continue with our funding advocacy, again, securing our permits and approvals. We are looking to pre-qualify contractors for both the tunnel contract and the plant contract in the spring of next year. We anticipate updating council with a refined detailed design estimate early in 2027 once we have the design complete. Assuming funding and permitting is secured, we anticipate going to tender and starting construction next year, tunnel first, then the plant, and anticipate being in service with the phase 1 works at the end of 2030. So how can you help us? Again, it's providing ongoing advocacy for our provincial permits and approvals and our advocacy for funding. We have targeted, phase 1, $450 million with $150 million from each party, ourselves, the federal government, and the provincial government. And again, funding and permits are needed by the end of 2026 to meet this anticipated schedule, which is shovels in the ground in 2027, in service at the end of 2030. And that is the end of my remarks, and we'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that progress update. It's there's a lot to take in there, so we'll open up the floor here and for further conversation. So I see Councillor Morocco first.
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Lisa, greatly appreciate that. Great news, and hopefully now we can look at really lobbying the federal government now that they have a majority government, and hopefully we can get some support too from our elected officials such as Chris Spittle and maybe even Councillor Badaway can help in lobbying the government for the funds. Because they did make an announcement, sorry, I'll get to the question, but they did make an announcement saying that there was going to be huge infrastructure funding from the federal government. So let's hope that we can secure some of that money. One of the questions I have is that you said there would be 2 of the pumping stations, I guess, that will be decommissioned. What 2 pumping stations would those be, through the chair to?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through the chair, I'm going to ask Director Lambert to address that question.
Through the chair, we're looking at Gardner Road or pumping station, as well as a Grassy Brook sewage pumping station. In these cases, the trunk will be right there at the doorstep, so it's a great opportunity to reduce a pumping station and connect to a deep sewer.
That's good. Okay, I have a few other comments, but I think that was the number one thing. That the timelines, I think, are crucial because we have a number of permits sitting, and I'm thrilled about the jobs. And we'll make sure that those employment lands will continue to stay employment lands. That's another question too, through the chair, to whoever staff. Thank you.
Through the chair to Deputy CAO Sergi.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. We actively work with the City of Niagara Falls. City of Niagara Falls is now responsible for land use planning. But with respect to the intersect between infrastructure planning and land use planning, absolutely, we're working lock and step with them in terms of, ensuring this opportunity for employment remains.
That's good, because it's very important not only to build the houses that we need, but it's more important to make sure that there's people here that can have a job to afford those homes. Those are my comments for now. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have Councillor Encena next.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. The initiated funds that have been spent so far, where do they come from?
Director Lambert, to the chair.
Through the chair, I can start, and then perhaps maybe somebody from finance can assist if required. My understanding is that those funds were initiated through previous reports, so that the debt was identified for this project, and that there's been about, as noted, $50 million so far initiated, and those funds were for the design, the property, and other studies required.
Okay, through you, Chair. I guess that should have been my question then. Is it debt that we're using to pay for this right now? If not, if you don't have that answer, we can come back to it. Appreciate that. With regard to the archaeological, we've done 1 and 2. Is it a requirement by the province that we do stage 3? Or is it necessity now that we have to do stage 3?
Through the chair to Deputy CAO Sergi.
Through the chair, there is a requirement for stage 3 on certain components or certain portions of the property, not the entire property. So we will work with the consultants that we have to figure out the best path forward with respect to stage 3. There could be opportunities just for some avoidance in certain areas and to sort of not get into it altogether. There's opportunities coming up with some changes in provincial legislation for partial approvals on the property. So we're very much working very closely with the consultants relative to clearing the archaeological concerns.
Thank you. So in relation to that then, through you, Mr. Chair, part and part of the archaeological is doing the consultation. We are ahead of that game, I hope. Okay.
We are, through the chair, we are ahead of that game. Just last week, Deputy CAO and myself visited with the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. So we are very much ahead of that game.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's one hurdle. And I'm looking at page 3 of the presentation. And I blew up my map just to make sure I was seeing things correctly. The bottom right-hand corner, where it says Fort Erie, you have 2 areas that are in the water treatment catchment area. Are there plans for that to be connected? Or how is that going to work? Or is it just sort of perhaps maybe?
Through the chair to Director Lambert.
Thank you for the question. We're currently undertaking a Fort Erie long-term wastewater servicing strategy. So looking at this 50 to 100 years down the road, knowing that the Stevensville-Douglastown Lagoon will have a certain life and it will need to either be expanded or replaced. And as part of this study, all the options are on the table. So we're looking at, do we build Anger larger, remove Crystal Beach, remove the Stevensville-Douglastown Lagoon? Another option is also to look at and consider pumping it to the north. So that's why it's been identified. We haven't finalized that study, but that'll be done later this year.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the answers.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Diodati.
Thanks very much, Chair. So a few questions through you to the presenter. First question is regarding the current pumping station. So I understand there'll be hopefully 2 decommissioned when this comes online. But the question is, what shelf life do we have left, first of all, in those pumping stations? And if it didn't work out and we had to replace those pumping stations, what would that cost be? Ballpark. Through you, Chair.
Director Lambert, would you like to answer that?
Through the chair, I don't have those numbers in front of me at this time, but as we've identified, the condition of our infrastructure is such that we do need replacing. There was a cost-benefit analysis which determined it was actually better to have this new South Niagara plant than continue to pump north for both growth and the long-term asset management.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a number I'd curious, and I'll tell you why, Chair, where I'm going with this is Plan B. I mean, Plan A obviously is the plan we've been working on for 3 years to get a third, a third, and a third. But just in case, I like to make sure that worst case scenario has been at least addressed. Not that we ever want to use it or intend to, but so on that note, Chair, backup plan, if for whatever reason, worst case scenario, we weren't successful getting the upper levels of government on side and only the region had to bear the full cost, the 450 million in today's dollars, subtracting, of course, the development charge money. Have we modeled out what it would cost the average household per year if we had to go down that path? Through you, Chair.
Director Lambert, your team, anybody can shed light on that for Councillor Diodati?
So we're currently working.
Can you please?
Up here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please come up and so that,
It's fine.
Yeah, so we're currently working on a work plan to go through 7 different options to look at a plan B in case this doesn't come together.
Okay, so we don't know that number yet. Any idea through you, Chair, when we'll have the numbers from Plan B?
So, like I said,
yeah, just turn your microphone on so everybody can hear. Thank you.
yes. Okay. Yeah, so currently going through the work plan right now, so that work is in progress. So we can bring back an update when we're a little further along in the process.
Any idea? I mean, are we talking, will it be before, the fall or even ballpark idea, range of time when you guys might have those numbers?
Yeah, I think that's a good timeline.
Okay, and then maybe then we can also know if the replacement cost for pumping stations as well, Chair. I think that's all part of Plan B. And again, I have no intention of having to go down Plan B, but that's why we have insurance, right? We don't plan to get into a car accident, but we have it just in case. And then my other and final question at this point through you, Chair, is I know it was mentioned that we're also exploring other funding models as part of Plan B or Plan C. So my question is, there wasn't any details on that. Are we looking, seriously considering as an option, private equity financing of this project if we're not successful getting upper levels? Through you, Chair.
Through the chair. So yes, we are looking at a public-private partnership. So that would be sort of a finance build scenario. So that is one of our options that we are looking at.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My last comment I'll just say is I'm with Councillor Morocco in that now that the federal government has got their majority, hopefully we're going to get our local MP to lead the charge to get this necessary piece of infrastructure. And I believe all my discussions with the province, they've been waiting for the feds to come on board to put together the shared model. So let's hope that we can get it done. So Niagara's not going to be, our growth isn't going to be stunted because of lack of infrastructure investment. And I do believe the Prime Minister intends to address these kind of big projects. But in the meantime, let's have our Plan B just in case. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we have Councillor Foster next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for presenting to us this morning. I'm not going to worry about the areas that have been brought up so far, but what I will say is that I look at this new wastewater treatment plant as a massive technology project. I've always looked at these things in that particular way. So I'm just curious, like with the design and where we're going with this, are we, for lack of better terminology, are we bleeding edge or are we leading edge when we're looking at the technologies for this?
Through the chair, I'll start and then I will pass it on to Director Lambert to follow up. Again, Councillor, one of the biggest and most important parts of the design process was the upfront work to confirm our flows and our loading and such. That then informed what our unit processes would be in terms of treatment, and then carefully went through with support from our operations team who are ultimately going to be operating this facility, what sort of equipment we would be specifying for this treatment facility, really looking at it in the lens of long-term life cycle cost. So to your point, ensuring that the equipment we were using was proven technology, was familiar technology, and that from a long-term O&M perspective, it made sense, and that our operators very much had a lot of say in what we were going to prescribe in this facility, because they are the ones who are going to be operating in perpetuity. So I'm going to pass it over to Director Lambert to build on top of that.
Thank you for the question. A lot of time was spent careful analysis with our consulting team to figure out the best equipment that we could select for this new plant. Again, echoing the Commissioner's comments about ensuring that we have a good operation and maintenance plan, and that we're carefully adopting appropriate technology. Sometimes you don't want to be the first one using something. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's interesting. Several of us on council went for the tours of the other wastewater treatment plants, and what I really took away from that, and really very much enjoyed, is the fact that new technology is being brought into place at the older plants to make them more efficient. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing this plant coming into play, and us being able to actually make use of these technologies to give better life, I guess, to some of our other plants as we're moving forward in the future. So anyway, with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have Councillor Easton next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm interested to know, Commissioner, what the plan and who will be responsible for the expertise related to the habitat conservation elements of this. What can we expect in terms of reporting? It's so heavy, of course, as it should be, in terms of the technology and the physical plant. However, obviously, habitat conservation could create problems if we're not on top of it. So how will this be handled?
To Director Lambert, maybe I'll just start. One of our mitigative measures, again, is looking at a donation to offset some of our species at risk impacts, but I'll allow Director Lambert to expand on that.
Through the chair, our team with Stantec, that's part of their work for the design of this new wastewater plant, is also to address the species at risk as well as other environmental concerns. So they're working through that right now. They've done a tremendous amount of work, and they'll be responsible for putting in the proper studies. As the Commissioner has mentioned, right now we're looking at that $1 million donation in order to address the species at risk issue that we currently have.
But through you, Mr. Chair, Director Lambert, exactly what does that involve? What are we talking about?
Through the chair, we'll be happy to bring back further information in regards to this specific item. I don't have the details on me at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be looking for it. I guess others will be as well. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have Councillor Height next.
Yes, thank you. Through the presenter, is phase 2 required prior to the in-service 2030?
Through the chair, phase 2 is not required prior to 2030. We can commission the plant with the phase 1 deep trunk sewer from the south side pumping station. and phase 2 can follow on after the plant is commissioned.
Okay, because the follow-up question was, why wouldn't we just, if we know what's really needed, why wouldn't we go to the province and the feds and say, this project is $600 million, a third is what's going to be required in the next 15 years. Can we get the funding? Why wouldn't we do that?
So from a constructability, through the chair, from a constructability perspective, we have chosen to do phase 1, phase 2, and I will turn it to Director Lambert, who can provide you with the specifics on why that phasing is important.
Through the chair, in simple terms, you want to start at the deepest end, with the trunk sewer being at the plant. That's a long stretch for the Montrose Road, the first phase. So we want to make sure we accomplish that piece first, and then we can go from there. As the Commissioner has mentioned, this will actually be two separate contractors, two separate contracts, one doing the deep trunk sewer, and then the other one doing the plant facility.
A follow-up question regarding the funding. The regional portion of the funding through development charges, is it 100% through development charges, or is it through development charges plus the water bills, wastewater bills?
Through the chair, I think what we're presenting with you today would be a good news story with a third funding from the province and the feds, and then the remaining third for the region. There would be a significant portion that would be growth related. We're currently working through our master servicing plan and the development charges study. So that update will be provided into the next DC study. So you'll see an update late this year or early next year on the development charges.
But the follow-up is some of that also going to be on the levy, some of this cost?
Through the chair, the portion that would be for benefit to existing, that would be funded by the wastewater portion of the bill.
Okay, but not off the levy, not off our tax levy.
That's correct. Yeah.
On the chart that we have right in front of us, it talks about unlocked capacity for Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and Niagara on the Lake. This diversion of flow will help the overflow problems in North St. Catharines, not necessarily unlock capacity, because we don't have much land to be developed. It's going to help that overflow, is it not?
Through the chair, by removing some of the flow that goes through Port Weller that currently Thorold South is directed to, yes, that would reduce the overall flow, which then during wet weather events would reduce the amount of overflows.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Councillor Olson next.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm wondering about the, we say we have to have this finished by 2030. The existing infrastructure, is this going to be able to survive that long, what we have right now, and what measures have we taken to make sure that that happens?
So through the chair, I'll start in response to Councillor Olson, then turn it over to Director Lambert. The infrastructure that we have currently today will continue beyond when this plant is actually commissioned. So therefore, we are actively ensuring that those assets remain safe and fit for purpose today and for the future. So for example, we recently received some funding for the Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant to upgrade the primary treatment facility there. And we've just completed some work on the secondaries. So there is ongoing work at the Niagara Falls plant to ensure that it maintains its rated capacity for today and into the future, regardless of whether or not the South Niagara Falls solution goes into place. Did you want to add anything to that, Director Lambert? He says no. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, I might have added that you've now have a staff that's responsible for the logistics of repairs and maintenance now as well, eh? Is that correct?
Through the chair, could you clarify, Councillor Olson, speaking of maintenance staff?
Maintenance logistics, there was, didn't we add people to make sure that we had people to make sure that the sequences and the processes were, for repairs were improved because we weren't able to buy things and maintain things?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for the question. Yes, as presented during our last budget process, maintenance is a key aspect for water and wastewater, and we're implementing that maintenance management strategy, knowing that we're not going to have a tremendous amount of capital, but we need to keep those assets living and continuing to provide service. So you are right. Maintenance is a large focus of what we're doing to keep service provided.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And through you, that leads to my question about, my next question for design for maintenance. These people were involved in our experience with our existing equipment, was involved in the selection of equipment, I guess. Is that correct? In the design of the lifestyle. And by the way, what is the lifestyle the life cycle we're looking for?
Through the chair, our maintenance team was very involved, same as their operations and equipment selection. In regards to your, could you repeat your second portion of that question?
I was looking for so they were involved with design for maintenance of the new facilities, and I asked incidentally what the life cycle forecast we're building for here.
Thank you for clarifying the question. The majority of the plant will be concrete. So concrete tanks have a lifespan of 50 years or greater. There will be other components that'll have a lesser life cycle, depending if it's pumps or electronics or other components. So depending on what piece it is, that'll have a different life cycle. But we will have a planned preventative maintenance piece in place for those components.
Okay, thank you. And finally, I wanted to ask about the trends in lean operations include things like standardization, electronics, miniaturization, those types of things. Have they all been taken into account in your selection of equipment?
Through the chair, we are looking at, again, how we can optimize our maintenance and operation practices. So yes, that was taken into consideration in selection of the equipment. We're also, through our maintenance management strategy, looking at similar philosophies on how we manage our maintenance going forward in all of our facilities.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, we have Councillor Ugolini.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Commissioner for the presentation. My question will be to Director Lambert. Based on the timing and the phasing and phase two, with the growth we know that's occurring in Rolling Meadows, because there's 3 developments there, it's not just one. Are we going to be able to continue that development with the capacity we have? And because I don't want to get in a position where we're shutting down development because we don't have the capacity. And I'll build on what Councillor Height said, that maybe we should look at this holistically and move the whole project forward. Can I get an answer on that? Because that's critical.
Through the chair, Thorold South is an excellent example of where the region and the local municipality partnered on an I&I infiltration and wet weather removal out of this system. As the mayor will know, I spent a little bit of time in Thorold as well, and during that time, it was a great focus on making sure that the wet weather flow was outside of that. The city has put in lots of investment into that system, and we're working with them continuously to balance growth with continued I&I removal. So as we work in the future and continue to proceed, that's a constant connection point that we do have with the city, and we're happy to work with your staff on that.
Well, and I know the money we spent, it's millions of dollars. But I want to make sure that the money we spent and where we're moving with our growth projections, that the capacity is going to be there from a regional level. Forget about the infiltration, because we're working on that and we've done amazing work on that, and you're aware of that. But I'm talking about the capacity levels from when you think that will be connected to the new plant and the growth taking place. And there's 3 developments there, not just one. Are we going to be able to handle that capacity?
Through the chair, I appreciate the mayor's comments and acknowledge the amount of work that the city has done. We're happy to participate in the CSO program with the funding, and our growth analytics team works very closely with the city's planning team to anticipate how that growth will occur over the next number of years. That information also goes into our master servicing plan as well, and that helps us identify the timing for improvements as required. So we're going to continue to work closely with the city to ensure that capacity is available. The one last thing I will say is that there is dry weather capacity within the system currently. It's the wet weather that causes the impacts, and that's the piece that we're mitigating together.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Encina again.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple questions through you, Chair, to the Commissioner, or perhaps through Director Brenz. I see she's here now. What portion of the whole project is tied to DCs? What kind of percentage are we looking at?
Good morning. I believe some of the discussion has been around the overall scope of the project, and I think where we started is maybe a little bit different to where we're going to end up. So the original estimates were about 50% growth related. As Director Lambert alluded to, we are in the process of revising our DC background study and our growth projections and seeing what level, degree that this plant will support the existing growth once those numbers have been revised. So I do anticipate us looking at that growth percentage and maximizing and ensuring that we're recognizing the growth component of that project to its fullest.
Madam Sergi would like to add some comment.
So further to that, just for some clarification, since the project was originally costed and brought forward to council, there's been a significant amount of growth that's now being projected in the catchment area, both on the population side and on the employment side. And that's why when we're talking about the DC bylaw update, we now have to account for that growth. So proportionally, the DCs may take up a much larger component of what we had anticipated them covering in the original estimates. And so that's why that work is so critical to understanding sort of where we go forward. So we've been working really closely with the area municipalities on some of their planning work and where they're planning to grow and where they're planning to expand, so that we can make sure that it's captured in all of this work and that everything's worked out accordingly.
Okay. Through you, Chair, while Director Brent's there, if we're looking at, where the hell did it go? The cost that we have been expended so far, 56 million, is that debt related? Did that come from debt, or is that coming from where?
Through the chair, the original budget estimate was brought forward both with a DC debt component and a non-DC debt component. So just given the magnitude of the ask, it was originally recommended that there was a significant portion of debt related to that project that would be planned for to be paid back through development charges. Does that answer your question?
No, well, the money that has been expended already,
Oh,
did that come from debt also?
through the chair, to date, we have not issued any debt in relation to the expenditures incurred to date.
Okay. And just one further follow-up through you, Chair. When we look at DCs and the reliance that we're putting on DCs, is that not somewhat of a major risk that we're going to take? If you're forecasting and we're looking at what's coming ahead. But in a situation we're in where things are somewhat standstill, how is that going to affect not just this? Well, and it will have a major component on this. How are we going to deal with that?
Through the chair, it's a really good question, and we'll get more into those discussions as we move forward with the revised DC background study. DC rates are basically a formula between the costs we know we're going to incur and the growth we expect within our permits. And so either if the permits are down, then we can afford less capital. So those two things will go hand in hand. We should never be in a position where we will plan for the best outcome around the projects that are growth related and our anticipated growth. There's always that decision point of council. We were actually just looking at our DC balances over the next 10 years. You know, where are we going? Do we have enough money to do everything we want to do growth related? So that does come back as part of the annual capital budget approval as well, where we would flag whether that we have concerns around our ability to fund the growth projects being brought forward. So lots of time for discussions and approvals and awareness to that.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, all staff, for this wholesome discussion this morning. So now we're actually going to introduce, I'll need a mover and a seconder for item 5.1, PWC-C 6/2026. So moved by, let's go with Councillor Ugolini and Councillor Rigby. So I get a smile out of that. So is there any further questions? I think we've pretty much asked more, but if anybody's come up with any other concerns at this time, then this is the time to bring it forward. None noted, so then I will ask everybody to please vote electronically. Great, okay, so that's carried. So look forward to updates in the future, I'm sure. So now moving on to 5.2, which is the Transportation Steering Committee minutes from March the 25th, 26. Is there a mover and seconder for that? And how about Councillor Seaborn and Councillor Foster? So I'll get that in front of us. Is there any speakers, any questions, queries, quandaries on this, on the minutes? If none, then I'm going to call the question, and please vote electronically. Motion is carried. So moving on to other business. Are there any items of other business from any committee members this morning? None noted. So then we're going to move on to our next meeting. Will be held on Tuesday, May the 12th, 2020.
Mr. Chair?
Oh.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Oh.
Did raise my hand.
Okay, well, we didn't quite get there, so go ahead, Councillor Chiocchio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one item I do want to talk about or bring up to Director Lambert. It's in regards to the project that's taking place on Quaker Road in Welland. I don't know if this is a time or place for if I can speak to it, but I need some answers as to what's transpired. I know the work that's been taking place for the last 2 years since 2024. So if you just give me a brief update on why it's extended another few months. I know I've been getting a lot of calls from residents in regards to this issue and just wanting some answers.
Go ahead.
Maybe Director Lambert can speak without us going into confidential, Counselor Chokio, this was a confidential item. And I don't know whether Director Lambert is comfortable in furthering any information that might be speaking what we spoke about in confidential. So maybe you need to have we can go into confidential.
No, it's all, I will email my directly to Mr. Lambert, and also with the businesses that are being affected in the area. I'll email the questions to Mr. Lambert and hopefully get a response.
Okay, thank you. That would be very much appreciated for this morning. With that,
All right, thank you.
Okay, that was the only item, Counselor? That was just.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure. So then, our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, May the 12th, at 9:30 here at the council headquarters. So there being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned. Have a good morning, everybody.